Caroline Davis, BBC News.
You're watching BBC News. We have just received a statement from Buckingham Palace confirming that the Duke of Edinburgh has died. The statement says, "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen has announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle." We have just received this information from Buckingham Palace. Let me repeat this news. "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen has announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle."
All the measures have to take effect at the same time, and in order for the infection to be stopped. So I suggest a near lockdown, and also speed up the vaccination process.
Okay, Dr. Gustavo Johansson there in Sao Paulo, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We are just going to be joining our colleagues in the news channel on BBC News in the next few minutes for an important announcement that we have been getting in to BBC News. And let us go now to my colleagues in BBC News.
Commitment to make testing cheap and easy.
Well, our correspondent Becky Johnson joins us now from Bristol Airport. How's it going down there?
Well, only a very small number of domestic flights leaving here today, so not very many passengers here to speak to at all. And when you come to an empty airport like this, it really does bring home just how hard the pandemic has hit the travel industry. And I think many within the industry were hoping for a bit more detail in what was released by the government today, because of course travel may be allowed from as early as next month, but people within the industry saying that what we've been given actually raises more questions than answers, because although we know there will be this traffic light system, as yet we don't know which countries will be on the green list or the amber list or the red list. So people can't really start booking holidays because they don't know where their preferred destination would fall within that list. And we have been getting reaction from across the industry. We've heard from the CEO of Bristol Airport, and this is what he had to tell us.
Thank you, Becky. Some important news just in for you, and Buckingham Palace has just announced that the Duke of Edinburgh has died. He was 99 years old. We don't know any more detail on that for you yet. We will bring that to you as soon as we know it, but we can bring in our royal correspondent for you, Rhiannon Mills. Rhiannon.
This will come as deeply upsetting news for the royal family, the royal household, and most significantly, Her Majesty the Queen. In a statement that has just been released by the palace, they say it is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen has announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. It goes on to say that His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. For almost 8 decades, the Duke of Edinburgh was a constant figure by the Queen's side and an integral and much-loved member of the royal family and a truly unforgettable character. It was, of course, his marriage that really placed him at the centre of national life at a time really when it was men who were head of the household. It was men who held those positions of power, and yet he found himself always in that supporting role, supporting his wife, a role that he loyally fulfilled for his entire life. But I think now, as we have that opportunity to really look back on his life, he really has left behind the most remarkable personal legacy, whether it's through his career in the Navy, his charity work, his support for the Queen, and also his efforts throughout the decades to really modernise the monarchy. Of course, over the next week, the royal family and the country will prepare to pay their respects to him for his funeral. But it will also be, I think, an important opportunity to really recognise his extraordinary commitment that he showed throughout the years to his family, that unfaltering dedication to the Queen as Britain's longest serving consort. It also is going to be a real opportunity for people to look past that image of an elderly man that we've seen in recent decades who, yes, quite frequently made the headlines because of his no-nonsense character, but now really is an opportunity for the royal family, for the country, and also people right across the Commonwealth to celebrate, remember that important life of public service and duty, from fighting during the Second World War to becoming Britain's longest serving consort.
Just to remind you, if you are just joining us, the statement from Her Majesty the Queen, who announces the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. Further announcements will be made in due course. The royal family join with people around the world in mourning his loss. And Rhiannon, he was last seen in public relatively recently. He only retired from full royal duties at the age of 96.
He really did lead the most remarkable life. And yes, you're right. It was very recently that we most recently saw him in public. And that was as a result of him being admitted to the King Edward VII Hospital last month. Now, I think for many people, yes, he was 99 years old, but the fact that he was admitted to hospital still came as a surprise to many of us. After all,
independent, unbiased journalism of integrity.
Thank you for your endorsement of serious journalism.
Legacy is often seen as a burden of expectations. It comes with its own set of challenges. The challenge to take it forward, challenge to reimagine, challenge to be in the present, and also challenge to think about the future.
What accountability are you talking about?
As long as the core values and principles remain uncompromised. Debates are essential not just for journalism, but for
Elizabeth's husband, Prince Philip, has died. This is what the royal family has tweeted, that it is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen has announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. Prince Philip was 99 years old and he had been suffering failing health in the recent years. He was admitted earlier in February to King Edward VII's Hospital in central London after feeling unwell. Now, he later underwent a successful procedure for pre-existing heart condition at another London hospital, and then he returned to Windsor Castle. Now, he has died. That's what the royal family, the Buckingham Palace, has announced. Prince Philip had been hospitalized several times, in fact, in recent years for various ailments, most recently in February. A short statement by the royal family has come, and they've in fact tweeted it also, that the royal family join with people around the world in mourning his loss. Further announcements will be made in due course. So Prince Philip there dying peacefully, that's what the royal family has said, at the Windsor Castle. He was 99. All right, moving on to some other news. Investments in Indian startups have soared, with some homegrown startups now attaining the unicorn status in just a span of a few days. NDTV spoke with some of these startups and discussed their journey so far, as well as their growth plans.
Thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations both of you for joining us and taking out that time. Of course, I'd like to begin by asking Mr.
of taking those measures to reduce or reverse the steps that they've taken in their nuclear program. But it's not a done deal, of course. But Abbas Araghchi, one of the chief negotiators for Iran, has said that Iran is serious and they want the other side to be serious. And if they see that they're not, then they won't continue the talks. But ultimately, they will be coming back to Vienna next week. But for the Iranians, they have to come back to here, Tehran, and discuss with the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He is the spiritual and political leader of this country, and no deal, no agreement will be signed off until he says so. But there's also the aspect of the internal political factions inside here in Iran. Parliament is dominated by conservatives who were never for the agreement in the first place. President Hassan Rouhani is from the reformist camp. He really wants this deal to work out. He wants the JCPOA to be revived because his presidency comes to an end later this year, and he doesn't want to be remembered as the president that resided over a failed agreement, and also he wasn't able to deliver on his promises of getting those sanctions lifted. So there's still
all right. I've got to jump in now, Asad. Sorry, we've got to bring you some breaking news. There's been reports here that Prince Philip of the United Kingdom has died. He's the husband of the reigning monarch, the British monarch, of course, Queen Elizabeth, died aged 99 years old. And on their golden wedding anniversary, the Queen described him as her strength and stay. Also known by his title as the Duke of Edinburgh, Philip spent more than 70 years by her side, which was often marked by controversy and controversial remarks. Andrew Simmons takes a look back at his life.
He was by her side throughout the longest reign of a monarch in British history. For Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, it wasn't only a marriage, but a life of service to his wife, Queen Elizabeth II. Born into Greek and Danish royalty, Philip had a lonely childhood. He was taken under the wing of the British aristocracy. When he married the then Princess Elizabeth in 1947, he was a promising young naval officer. It was a fairy tale wedding for a country emerging from war and hardship. It all changed for the young couple when Elizabeth's father, King George VI, died at only 56 years of age. She became queen, and Philip, in the words of his private secretary, looked as if the world had fallen down on him. His naval career ended along with his independence.
Prince Philip was sort of forced into making huge sacrifices. He was very much a man's man, not someone who was going to naturally fall into the position of playing second fiddle and walking 2 paces behind his wife and calling her ma'am in public and so on.
And so began life in the Queen's shadow. Hundreds of engagements a year. He did, however, manage to find time for his own charities, helping young people and conserving wildlife.
Very energetic, a problem solver, a sort of scientific cast of mind. So those were sort of, on the positive side, the attributes that people admired. Sometimes, though, his detractors would say that, some of his forthrightness could come across as rudeness.
Philip did have a reputation for embarrassing and politically incorrect remarks, whether he was being rude about the Chinese or Indians, or swearing at photographers, often a sideshow to formal occasions. Yet even though an air of racism hung over him, a staunchly royalist UK media generally forgave him.
He was certainly given a much easier ride than politicians. Politicians who tend to make a racist or an offensive remark in this day and age tend to have to apologise a couple of days later because there's so much pressure on them. But I've never known Prince Philip to apologise for a remark, and I remember once he wandered over after he'd said to an Aboriginal leader, "Do you still throw spears at each other?" And I saw him do this in Australia in 2002, and the next day he came over. It made front pages all over the world. And he just wandered over and said, "The trouble with you is you've got no sense of humour, the complete absence of humour." So he wasn't going to apologise.
His retirement from public duties came in 2017 with a send-off from the Royal Marines. Whatever the faults, his 60 years of public service was admired by many people. While their marriage was said to have had its ups and downs in the couple's younger years, Prince Philip remained dedicated and supportive to the Queen. She'll receive immense sympathy from a British public known to view her with respect and affection.
Right now, voting is underway in Djibouti. 73-year-old Ismail Omar Gala.
And now breaking news from the UK. The royal family has issued a statement moments ago reading, "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen has announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle." The statement continues, "The royal family joined with people around the world in mourning his loss. Further announcements will be made in due course." Prince Philip was 99 years old, and Jean Robinson, he was the consort, longest-serving consort of any member of the royalty. 65 years he supported Queen Elizabeth. Buckingham Palace is saying he should be remembered for his support of the environment, science, technology, or will be saying that. And the Queen said on their 50th anniversary, I think it was in 1997, that Philip is my strength and stay. He tried to modernize the monarchy and did in many ways when he was the husband of the young Queen. Also known, Jean, though, for telling brusque, as NBC News says, brusque and crass jokes and sometimes even racially insensitive comments made. Was often controversial, always, though, by her side, and tried to modernize the monarchy 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
Morning that Prince Philip has died at the age of 99. The royal family tweeted this out. "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen has announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness, the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. The royal family joined with people around the world in mourning his loss. Further announcement will be made in due course."
Yeah, I mean, he served in World War II when it looks like when he was 18, he started writing letters to then Princess Elizabeth. He got permission to marry her in 1947. They have 4 kids together. Royalty. He came from royalty, got rid of the royalty where he was born in Greece, educated in France and Germany. He goes to the UK, fights for them, joins the Navy, and then he lived a very public life.
He did indeed. And, you know, during this global pandemic regarding COVID, the royal family, until they were vaccinated, for the most part, were isolating in different spots throughout Great Britain. And he was admitted to the hospital within the last 2 months and was there for a very long time. And people were worried about his condition. And this was about the time the Meghan Markle-Harry interview was about to run with Oprah Winfrey, and it was suggested that it was inappropriate that they run that particular, you know, tell-all, which invariably, you know, ultimately did accuse the royal family of racism. It was inappropriate to run that while he was in the hospital. And so, you know, he was released from the hospital just within the last week or two. And now the news that at the age of 99, Prince Philip, the husband of Queen Elizabeth II, has passed away.
He retired from his duties, his royal duties, in 2017, and there have been so many reports that he has been staying at Windsor Castle and then throughout the pandemic as well. They love Windsor Castle. That's where Harry and Meghan got married. I hope that the family was able to patch things up before he passed away. I wonder if Meghan and Harry will be able to go. I wonder what their reactions will be, if they'll come out and say anything publicly, or if they'll go over for the funeral. The castle is about an hour outside of London. We were there for the wedding and were able to visit the town. I'm sure people will be camped out there around the castle, the beloved family. Yeah. And just like at the wedding, there were miles and miles of people all along the streets, hoping just to get a glimpse at Meghan and Harry, which they did because they drove through the town in their car. And I know that the folks there are just devastated. They love this family. We love this family. And did y'all watch The Crown?
Yeah, of course.
I know it's fictional, but it's based obviously on this true story, and just to watch their ups and downs throughout that, and then the fact that they stuck together, 99 years old.
faces sex trafficking charges, and he could potentially serve as a witness against Gates, who is under investigation for allegedly paying for sex and sleeping with a 17-year-old. And now the Daily Beast reports financial transactions show Gates sent $900 to Greenberg, and the next day, Greenberg reportedly sent that same amount of money to 3 young women. Now, ABC News has not verified the Daily Beast report, and there's no evidence as to what the money was for, but Greenberg's lawyer claims Gates should be worried.
I'm sure Matt Gaetz is not feeling very comfortable today, but you've seen the number of stories, and the emphasis in the last few days is on the Matt Gaetz-Joel Greenberg relationship, right? So, I mean, wouldn't it be obvious to assume that he would be concerned?
Congressman Adam Kinzinger has now become the first Republican in Congress to call for Gaetz.
This is an ABC News special report. Now reporting, George Stephanopoulos.
Good morning. We're coming on the air right now because we have just learned from Buckingham Palace that Prince Philip, the husband of Queen Elizabeth, has died at the age of 99. A statement from the palace has been made. It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen announces the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. Further announcements will be made in due course. We want to go right to Maggie Rulli at Buckingham Palace this morning. Maggie.
Hi, George. Good morning. Yeah, just behind me, that flag was lowered to half-staff just moments ago. The palace releasing that statement with their deep sorrow. And George, standing here, it really does. It feels like the end of an era here in Britain, around the Commonwealth and the country. After decades with the Queen standing by her side, the two of them together shaping what the country and the Commonwealth would look like today. The palace, as you just read, confirmed again moments ago that Philip passed away. He's 99, just 2 months shy of his 100th birthday. Now, we did learn he was able to spend his final days at home in Windsor Castle with the Queen by his side. That's where he's been for about the last 3 weeks or so after being released from the hospital, where he was staying for a month undergoing a heart procedure as well as other medical care. Now again the country is mourning, asking what we are going to do next. You know, normally a royal funeral would be something that's commemorated widely throughout the country, throughout the UK, but this one, George, it's going to look a little bit different. We're still waiting for details, but due to coronavirus restrictions, the country here in the UK is still under a strict lockdown. Things will definitely look a little smaller. But George, certainly, whatever the size of these celebrations of his life, Prince Philip will be remembered. The legacy will be remembered because, wow, George, what a life he led. 99 years, and all of them were full. More than 2,000 solo engagements, 20,000 solo engagements, more than 2,000 visits in the UK and overseas. I mean, he packed so much life into his 99 years, shaping what the UK would look like today, shaping again what the Commonwealth would look like today. So a legacy that will be remembered. And of course, also looking to the Queen during this time. They were side by side together as they led this country. And George, I think of her right now because this is the first time today in this moment that she is going to be leading the country without her partner by her side.
He once told a friend, okay, Maggie, thanks very much. This is my destiny to support my wife in what lies ahead. And now Amy Robeck has a look back at the life of Prince Philip.
For over 73 years, he stood by his queen's side, her most loyal and faithful subject. Prince Philip of Greece was an 18-year-old cadet in the British Royal Navy when a 13-year-old Princess Elizabeth first took a shine to him back in 1939. The two were married in November of 1947. 5 years later, Elizabeth ascended to the throne, and Philip gave up his career to support his queen in her duty.
My grandfather was, had a very successful career in the military or in the Navy. He gave it all up to do his job and to be there to support the Queen.
In 2011, he spoke to the BBC about the challenges those early years presented when it came to his new role.
The problem was, of course, was to recognise what the niche was and to try and grow into it, and that was by trial and error, and there was no precedent.
So your first duty, first and foremost, to support the Queen?
Yes.
And what does that involve?
Helping her, supporting her, doing anything that is valuable to her.
It was Philip, apparently, who encouraged the Queen to make that famous speech celebrating Diana after grieving Britons had accused her of being too stoic, too aloof, and too royal.
In good times and bad,
She never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness.
At all times forced to walk 2 steps behind Elizabeth, but in life they were equal partners. They had 4 children and a loving, enduring marriage. As consort to the Queen, Prince Philip supported over 800 charities, made over 620 solo visits to 143 countries, and traveled thousands of miles across the globe with the Queen on tours and state visits, but never grabbing the spotlight for himself.
It must have been quite difficult for him being in the sort of shadows and being the support. But he does it fantastically well. He's never complained.
And it's obvious from all of us, and it should be obvious to everybody else that sees it going on, is the fact that without him, you know, she would be slightly lost, I think.
He'd lived to watch his beloved grandchildren get married, making it to the wedding of Harry and Meghan in 2018 while recovering from a hip operation. He also saw the birth of a new generation of royals, including Prince George, the future heir to the throne. And Meghan and Harry announcing they're expecting a second child, adding to the 9 great-grandchildren that Prince Philip has left behind. He retired from his public duties in 2017. His final public appearance was in July of last year, handing over his role as Colonel-in-Chief of the Rifles to Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, who was nearly 100 miles away. Philip's role as the man behind the throne did not go unnoticed. The Queen herself even spoke of it on their 50th wedding anniversary in 1997.
All too often, I fear Prince Philip has had to listen to me speaking. He is someone who doesn't take easily to compliments, but he has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years. And I and his whole family owe him a debt greater than he would ever claim, or we shall ever know.
Thanks to Amy Robach for that. Again, Prince Philip has died at the age of 99. We're going to return now to our regular programming. For many of you, that's Good Morning America.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
In less than 30 minutes.
Welcome.
We will guide you through it all tonight.
It could be at least a remarkable day, but until now there is no sign of any willingness for this.
Our correspondents on the story, Yuri Resheto there in Moscow, David Stern in Kiev. Thank you both very much. All right, and we have some breaking news coming into us now. Britain's Prince Philip, the husband of Queen Elizabeth, has died at the age of 99. Windsor Castle has just confirmed that he died this morning. His health had been deteriorating in recent months with several visits to the hospital. Philip was a member of the Greek and Danish royal families before marrying Elizabeth in 1947. We'll go live to London for the latest in a moment, but first, here's a look back at his life.
Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, the husband of Queen Elizabeth II. Always at her side or a few steps behind, that was royal protocol for the British Prince Consort. The couple was married more than 70 years. The former Royal Navy officer lived an eventful public life that was occasionally seasoned by his sharp tongue and penchant for dry humour. He was born Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark on the island of Corfu in 1921. But despite his family's aristocratic background, money was often in short supply. His parents divorced, and Philip ended up in England, where he began a career in the Royal Navy at the outbreak of World War II. He met the future Queen for the first time in the 1930s. He was 18, and for Elizabeth, just 13 at the time, it was reportedly love at first sight. Her parents were nonplussed with the prince of humble means. But Elizabeth persevered. In 1947, shortly after the war, the two were married. Their first child, Prince Charles, was born the following year. The family lived on the island of Malta, where Philip was stationed as an officer. But the death of the British King George VI in 1952 changed their lives dramatically. Elizabeth became queen. Philip, her prince consort, soon became well known for his quips. He was even reported to have asked the Queen after her coronation, "Where did you get that hat?" That won him a warm place in British hearts. That he wasn't fond of playing the role of an extra in countless televised appearances was no secret. Still, he fulfilled his duties with an elegant, if sometimes dour, distance. Award ceremonies, receptions, openings. Philip was never without a joke of some kind, even when he was given a set of headphones as a gift.
I mean, can you get Radio 3 on?
The death of Princess Diana in 1997 was an anguishing low point in the life of the Windsors. The monarchy faced days of mounting disapproval until Queen Elizabeth spoke openly of her grief. Philip was a source of strength to the Queen.
Like all families, we went through the full range of pleasures and tribulations of bringing up children. I'm naturally somewhat biased, but I think our children have done rather well under very different and difficult and demanding circumstances.
His descendants, including Prince Charles, next in line to the throne, and grandsons William and Harry, saw the royal heritage through the many highs and lows of the early 21st century. Prince Philip held the British crown longer than any other prince consort before him. In the course of 70 years, he visited over 140 countries and gave more than 5,000 speeches. He'll be remembered the world over for his calm, irreverent wit.
Let's go right to London. Our correspondent Charlotte Shelson-Pill is standing by for us. Charlotte, as we said, Windsor Castle now confirming that Prince Philip has passed away at the age of 99. What more can you tell us about what you're hearing there?
Yeah, that's right. We've had a statement from the royal family announcing the Duke of Edinburgh's passing. It says, with deep sorrow, Her Majesty the Queen has announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness, the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness has passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. Now, we are expecting more of a statement from the palace on that. We're also hearing that the Prime Minister is due to give a statement outside Downing Street as well. Obviously, we're expecting that to be an extremely sombre moment. The First Minister of Scotland also joining those paying their respects already to this news. She's tweeted that she's deeply saddened by the news that the Duke of Edinburgh has died. She said, I send my personal and deep condolences and those of the Scottish Government and the people of Scotland to Her Majesty, the Queen and her family. So this news now just coming into us. We are expecting further statements like the ones I just heard and that statement from the Prime Minister here in the coming hours.
This has just been confirmed, as you said, Charlotte, but have you seen any reactions among the British public, for example, on social media? How are people reacting to this?
It's still very early days at the moment. The news is just sinking in, but as I'm sure you can imagine, there will be a huge response here to this news. What you have to bear in mind is Prince Philip is the oldest and by far the longest serving consort here in the UK. His time as the husband of the Queen has really defined or been a huge part of the modern era. Everybody here knows stories about Prince Philip. He's attended thousands of public events as well. So we are expecting, of course, as I'm sure you can imagine, a very big response from the public here. This wasn't totally unexpected news, though. You mentioned that he had spent some time in hospital. We know that he underwent a heart procedure. So he was sent back to Windsor Castle last month. Now, just a few weeks later, we're hearing that he has now passed away.
We saw images, Charlotte, of his many years at the Queen's side. I mean, what do you think his legacy will be and how he has shaped the royal family?
Right. Well, the Queen herself said on their golden wedding anniversary that he was quite simply her strength and stay. And I think that is a quote that we're going to hear a lot over the coming days as we remember Prince Philip. She went on to say in a speech then that the whole family and this and many other countries owe him a debt greater than he would ever claim or we shall ever know. And we've been hearing so often, how he was a modernising figure in the post-World War II era, modernising figure for the royal family, that is. But of course, he'll be remembered as well for his no-nonsense attitude, the occasional gaffe as well through his time as the consort to the Queen. But this, I'm sure, will prompt an outpouring of grief here from the British public. And despite the fact we'd known he'd spent time in hospital, a good deal of shock as well. There are very few people who will remember a time before he was consort to the Queen.
Our correspondent Charlotte Shelson-Pill there in London will be coming back to you again, of course, at the top of the hour for more on this news. And you're watching DW. As we mentioned, that breaking news, Britain's Prince Philip, husband of Queen Elizabeth, has died at the age of 99. This has been now confirmed by Windsor Castle that he had passed away this morning. As Charlotte just mentioned, his health had been deteriorating in recent months. And we will have more coverage of the story for you at the top of the hour. Thank you for watching DW.
And that's not what's happening.
The Players.
Subscribe on BBC Sounds.
BBC Radio 5 Live. The voice of the UK.
Trials on Friday.
Listen live, pause, rewind and discover
with the BBC Sounds app.
It's just coming up to 12:05. The Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, as we've heard in the news, says summer holidays abroad are a possibility this year. He's been speaking to the BBC this morning. Can we hear from? For
the first time, they're not advising people against thinking about booking. So that's the big change. 2 to 3 weeks' time, they'll have the list of countries which fall into the different categories, and that will hopefully provide people some guidance. And we will proceed sort of carefully and securely by, I'm afraid, still having some tests that we've been talking about. But nonetheless, for the first time, families will be able to reunite. I hope business will be able to get underway. And yes, people can potentially think about those summer holidays too.
That was Grant Shapps. It's just coming up to 6 minutes past 12. You're listening to BBC Radio 5 Live. We're interrupting our normal programming now to bring you some important news. Buckingham Palace has just announced the death of His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh. The palace has not yet given any further details of the circumstances surrounding the Duke's death. However, we are expecting a statement to be released shortly. Just to repeat that, Buckingham Palace has just announced the death of His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh. Okay. Prince Philip was 99 and was the longest-serving consort to a monarch in British history. He retired from official duties in 2017 and has been largely out of the public eye in recent years. But last July, he attended a ceremony at Windsor Castle to formally relinquish his role as Colonel-in-Chief of the Rifles Infantry Regiment. Just to repeat that news for those joining us, Buckingham Palace has just announced the death of His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh. In a few minutes, we'll be joining the rest of BBC Radio for a special programme reflecting on his life. Prince Philip once said his only job was to ensure that the Queen could reign. He gave up what many considered to be the chance of a glittering naval career shortly before Elizabeth succeeded to the throne. And he's been acknowledged by biographers and commentators for the role he played in helping the monarchy react to the huge social changes that have taken place since the Queen's accession. On a personal level, he supported the Queen, regularly undertaking more than 300 public engagements in a year, even into his 90s. Famously, on the occasion of their golden wedding anniversary in 1997, the Queen described Prince Philip as her strength and stay. His Duke of Edinburgh award scheme, which he founded in 1956 to give young people a sense of responsibility for themselves, has touched the lives of millions of teenagers. He was also a conservationist and a keen sportsman. In recent months, Prince Philip hadn't been seen much in public. In January 2019, he suffered minor injuries in a serious car accident at Sandringham. And more recently, he spent a month in hospital in London and underwent a procedure for a heart condition. A reminder for those just joining us, Buckingham Palace has announced the death of His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh. He was 99. The longest serving consort to a monarch in British history. Prince Philip helped to sustain the British monarchy. He was there at the Queen's side through decades of celebrations and challenges, and he was once asked to sum up his contribution.
I've just done what I think is my best. I mean, some people think it was all right, other people quite evidently don't. What can you do? I can't suddenly change my whole way of doing things. I can't change my interests. I can't change the way in which I react to things. That's part of that's somebody's style, and I'm just too bad. You've got to lump it.
If you're just joining us, Buckingham Palace has announced the death of His Royal Highness, who we heard there, the Duke of Edinburgh. He was 99. Philip was born on the Greek island of Corfu in June 1921. A year later, his family was banished and rescued by a British warship.
I was a refugee, and I left Greece when I was 1. And at that time, they then had a republic. And so we, in fact...
This is BBC News. We're interrupting our schedules for the following announcement. Buckingham Palace has announced the death of His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh. A statement from Buckingham Palace said, "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen has announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle." Buckingham Palace has announced the death of His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh. A statement from Buckingham Palace said, "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen has announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle."
Tom Sanders, it's 12 minutes past 12. This is Evan Davis. You're listening to BBC News, broadcasting a special programme across all BBC radio networks following the announcement of the death of His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh. I am joined by BBC correspondent Johnny Diamond. Johnny, this is news of enormous significance for Britain and the royal family.
It is enormously significant, as you say, for the country and for the family, but of course it is of most significance to the Queen, and the statement from Buckingham Palace made that very clear. The reference to Prince Philip as the Queen's beloved husband and of the Queen's